This is a device that I built with Sussex University to try and teach, or to help teach, about scalars, vectors, matrices and tensors. And what it is basically, it's an array of 512 LEDs. So that's 8 by 8 by 8 LEDs. So each level here is 8 by 8, 64 LEDs. And each of these has got a driver chip which can control all the LEDs. And right at the bottom here there's a little tiny one-board computer called a Pi Pico, which sends signals to all these different layers, which means we can control any one of these 512 LEDs. And what we've done is we've developed a game and a demonstration mode. So there's 3 games at the moment we've developed, and there's a whole host of different demo modes. And the idea is that you can use this in a fun way to teach about this mathematics. And also, if you're lecturing about this, you could also use it in a demo mode to show different aspects of scalars, vectors, matrices and tensors. So we've got 3 games at the moment, and the LEDs will go on and off as part of this game, and you have to solve various challenges. And we've got switches here which allow the participants to enter data. So if you think about it, we've got a sort of origin here, and we've got X, Y and Z coordinates, and the switches correspond to these sort of coordinates. So in the first game, it's called a vector game, the computer will randomly flash an LED somewhere on this array, and you have to put in the X, Y and Z coordinates. If you get it wrong, it shows you where you've gone wrong and flashes the lights. But if you get it right, it will give you some kind of reward. So I can show you this sort of thing. You either get a nice sort of array of lights flashing up, all sorts of different things. So that's the first game, the vector game. The second game is working out the dimensions of a scalar or vector matrix or tensor. So what happens is the computer will randomly generate, say, a matrix or a tensor, and you have to put in the dimensions in terms of X, Y and Z of that tensor or matrix. And then the final game, it's called cracking the matrix game, where the computer will randomly show you a matrix very briefly, and then you have to use the X and Y buttons to try and discover which of the elements of that matrix are on or off. Now if you get it right, the LEDs stay on, but there are a couple of coordinates which I call the spy coordinates, which basically, if you press those, if you put that information in by accident, it will blank the screen and you have to start again. So there's a sort of bit of jeopardy in there. So those are the 3 games we've got at the moment. We've also got a demo mode, as I said, which we can use for teaching. So if I go into the demo mode here, so for example, we can show a vector of LEDs, 8 LEDs just in a line. We can also quickly show that in terms of a matrix. So we've still got 8 LEDs, but it's 2 times 4. And in fact, I don't know whether you can be able to see this, but we can also show it as a sort of 3-dimensional matrix. So 8 LEDs, but it's 2 by 2 by 2. We've got other modes that we can go into. So for example, in the tensor mode, we can show different ways of displaying the data in terms of the rods, columns and rows. We've got various other modes as well. So this is basically a really hands-on visual way of teaching about this mathematics.